Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to tell you it's going out about speed. Now it's on speed. We just learned that in companies it's also on speed, but now we have in real speed. Ursula, come, what are you going to present us? Ursula brought us a special guest.
I now have the great honor to introduce you a very special guest. And coming from the automotive industry, I somehow always admire these fancy companies who are presenting here. And sometimes we feel like we are, so to say, the old-fashioned factory industry. But I guess if you think about what is even much more a male's world than building cars, I guess it's driving cars. And motorsports always is a very male-dominated area, and therefore I'm very pleased that Susie Stoddard, who is actually driving for the Mercedes Cup here in the last years, is going to be our guest. Susie was originated in Scotland, and I think, Susie, you must have been very dedicated to car racing from your very early years on, because when I see your CV, I can see that you, by the year of 14, already were the British Women Car Racing Driver of the Year. And besides that, you then had a career for many, many years in England, and you started by 2006 to run for the Deutsche Tourenmeisterschaft. And since then, you are working for Mercedes, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you what your insights, especially being a woman in a male-dominated sporting area, are. Please come to the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and the few gentlemen that are here. I think I have a short video to show before I start talking.
Mein Ziel ist einfach, meine Bestes zu geben. Without a doubt, the best moment in my career was when I got invited to join the Mercedes-Benz family. And when you see what an amazing setup DTM is, it makes me very, very proud. And I'm still proud to this day.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to be here today and to be invited to speak today and to be in a room full of so many successful and inspirational women, because normally I'm surrounded by men. I already met two women from Daimler this morning who were invited to compete in a rally, their first ever rally, and they ended up finishing second, so that's a success story in itself, I think. Today I'm going to speak about how I got into motorsport, what it's like being in a man's world, and lastly what my hopes are for the future. You could see from the film and the picture here, I drive a pink car, which is a real cliche, a blonde girl in a pink car. It was a marketing idea from my boss, Norbert Haug, and I think it fits into the theme today pretty well. I race in the German touring cars, DTM, Deutsche Tourenmeisterschaft. For those of you who don't know what DTM is or are simply not motorsport fans, it's behind Formula one of the best championships in the world. My team colleagues this year are Ralf Schumacher and David Coulthard, just two from the seven, so it's a pretty competitive high-level championship. We race throughout Europe. Germany is obviously where we're most popular, but we've also got a race in China this year, the UK, Portugal, Spain, etc. How did I get into motorsport? It's a question I'm often asked. I started racing when I was only 8 years old, and motorsport is very much in my blood. My father has a motorbike dealership, a small one, in Scotland. And my mother actually met my father when she went into his shop to buy her first bike. So it's definitely in the family blood. I always had a little motorbike from the age of 3. And when I was 8 years old, I was given a cart for my birthday. And I started competing in some competitions. Please don't think that immediately I was a big star and very, very fast. I can clearly remember my first race. I was nearly last. I got overtaken by a lot of young boys, and I got hit around a little bit on the track. And I came in and said to my dad, I really didn't like that. You know, that was awful. I was near the end, I got hit. And he said, okay, now you have 2 choices. 1, you stop and we call it a day, and that's no problem. Or 2, you go out, do another race, and you try and go faster. You try and go as fast as you can. And if you get hit by another guy, another little kid, you're going to hit him back twice as hard. And I said, okay, that could be fun. Let's try that. So I went out again, improved a little bit, and just kept improving a little bit with each race. I started competing in the Scottish Championships, then the British Championships, and then the European Championships, and finally the World Championships. And at the age of 18, I was ranked 15th in the world, and then decided, okay, I want to move into single-seaters, which is like a miniature version of Formula One. That wasn't without its ups and downs. I tried to do an international business degree at university at the same time, and trying to do 2 things at once. I know as women are very good at multitasking, but I struggled a little bit. And I clearly remember after 1 year at university, I was walking home from a lecture, and I had one of those life-changing moments. I sat down in the park, thought to myself for over an hour, and thought, okay, what am I going to do? I didn't feel at home at university. I knew that driving was my big passion, and I decided, okay, I'm going to follow my gut feeling, and I'm going to give it all I've got, and I'm going to try and be a complete professional racing driver. I made the dreaded call home and said to my dad, I've got something to tell you. I want to leave university. I want to try and be a full-time professional driver. And he said, okay, go home, pack your bags up, I'll come and collect you in the morning, and then you decide how you're going to do that. As you can already tell, I've got great parents. So I went home. 1 week later, I moved down to Silverstone, which is a racing track in England, and tried to find my way. Worked as a marshal on a kart track, worked selling race helmets and suits to try and make my way by. And things came good. I raced in Formula Renault, and I made the finals of a prestigious award called the McLaren Autosport Young Driver of the Year Award. And I was the first ever female to make the final 6, 2 years in a row. Needless to say, I didn't actually win the award. There is only 1 winner and 5 losers, and I was one of the 5 losers 2 years. But this got me noticed by Mercedes-Benz, by Norbert Haug. They're always looking for new talent. And at the beginning of 2006, I was invited to come and test a DTM car in Spain. I went to the test, gave it all I could, went as fast as I could, and 1 week later, I was in the office of Norbert Haug with a contract on the table. Thank my lucky stars. And that was definitely the best day of my career, joining the Mercedes-Benz family. There are many, many talented young drivers out there, female and male, who are very, very good, but simply don't get that little break that everybody needs in their careers just to make that step forward. So that was without a doubt the best day of my career. I'm still at Mercedes-Benz. This is my 5th season now in DTM. And yeah, that's how I got to where I am today. Moving on now to what it's like being a female in a man's world. I'm sure many of you work in a male-dominated environment. And yeah, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's very lonely. But when people ask me, what is it like in motorsport, it's a man's world. Yes, it's a man's world, but it's also my world. I don't race because I want lots of attention from the guys. I don't race because I want to prove to guys that women are just as good as men. I race simply because I love it. I was very lucky in life to find my passion. And when I'm on the start grid, when I'm out in my car, it is the best feeling in the world. I absolutely love it. And I think for every guy there is out there who has a massive ego and is against women competing in racing against men and being successful, there is a guy who is for me. For example, Norbert Haug and Mercedes-Benz picked me up and gave me a chance. A lot of manufacturers and people in high positions in motorsport would never have given a female that chance, but they did. And I'm thankful to them to this day because they definitely support me all the time. It's also a case of finding that fine line. Of course, I'm a girl's girl. I like to be feminine. I love fashion. I love shopping. But I don't get to do that much when I'm at the racetrack. I'm in a overall helmet, sweating my guts out in the car. And when I get out of the car, of course, my hair is everywhere. I got a bright red beetroot face. And it's that very fine line between staying feminine, representing the brand, and also concentrating on your sport and not walking down the paddock in a miniskirt expecting the glances of all the guys. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it very wrong. I know when I've got it wrong when I come out of my car and there's lots of photographers and my team manager comes to you with a cap and says, I really think you should put this on. Then I realize, okay, my hair is looking pretty bad today. But no, apart from that, it's fine, I can't complain that guys are hard against me. Of course, they hate getting beaten by a female, but they either try to hide that or B, come up with every excuse in the world they can find as to why they've been beaten by a female. But generally, I get a lot of support out there and I have no major complaints. My last point before I run out of time, what are my hopes and goals for the future? Of course, I want to try and be successful in DTM. I had my best ever race last weekend and scored my first 2 points, so I'm still on a bit of a high. Yay. It only took me 4 years, but no, 4 years, but I got there eventually. I want to score a podium in DTM, and I want to test a Formula One car. Many people ask why there are no women in Formula One. Yes, physical side is a point, but I believe it's a point that can be overcome with hard training and the right hard work in the background. And I really hope that I can do enough to be given a test in a Formula One car. I've already been offered one, but it was only for a publicity stunt. The company wanted me to just drive a few laps to get lots of press, and I said, no, I want to deserve that place. I want to do it correctly. I want to earn the chance. So I'm waiting for that chance to come. Hopefully it comes. And then I very much hope to stay within the Mercedes-Benz family. I'm just now an ambassador for Mercedes-Benz, for AMG, for EVC, and Hugo Boss. And I very much hope that I can carry on with that in the future and maybe move more into the management side of racing. And if I ever see a young girl who's showing some promise in karting, for sure, I'm going to try and support her all the way because I know how tough it can be. And yeah, so now I have a little break in the calendar. I have a few appointments for Mercedes-Benz, very much like today. And we have our next race in 3 weeks' time in Norrisring. So you can all keep your fingers crossed for me, I hope.